What is up, Steve here. I hope you are doing well on this Friday morning. We got the news of the new consumer price index, and unfortunately it went to 8.6%. It's the largest 12-month increase since the period ending December 1981, and we all really know what happened in the early 80s with interest rates. And unfortunately, I think that this is really bad news. A lot of the economists out there got this wrong by a lot, by most estimations. I'm going to talk about this index, or the consumer price index that came out today, but also we're going to talk about how they manipulate the cost of housing as well when they figure out the calculation of shelter in the consumer price index. So let's take a look at this first real quick. This came out this morning at 8:30 a.m. June 10th, 2022. Over the last 12 months, the all-time index increased 8.6% before seasonal adjustment. The increase was broad-based, with the indexes for shelter, gasoline, and food being the largest contributors. While almost all major components increased over the month, the largest contributors were the indexes for shelter, airline fares, used cars and trucks, and new vehicles. The indexes for the medical care, household furnishings and operations, recreation, and apparel also increased in May. The all items index increased 8.6% for the 12 months ending May, the largest 12-month increase since the period ending December 1981. And we'll scroll down to shelter here. I encourage you guys to take a look at this as well. I'm going to leave the link for this and also the link for the other article that we're going to talk about. As you can see, shelter, and we can see the unadjusted 12 months ending May 2022, 5.5. You guys tell me if that's on the low side or not. Let's go ahead and jump over here. So it goes on to say the Bureau of Labor Statistics category of shelter, accounting for 30% of the CPI index, is broken down into owner's equivalent rent, OER, at 23% and rent of primary residence at 7%. Now let's talk about how they really manipulate this. Unbeknownst to most people, the BLS only uses rent and rent proxies to calculate CPI. Such is because they believe the prices of houses and other residential structures are financial assets, not consumption items. Now, the house where you live, if you have a mortgage and everything else, you have your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, you have maintenance associated with it. Now, they're calling that a financial asset. Now, it depends on how you look at it, but when you're figuring out, the cost of living, they have to take this into consideration of the real cost, but they are not, and I'm going to show you exactly what they're doing. To calculate OER, the BLS uses the following survey question. If someone were to rent your home today, how much do you think it would rent for monthly, unfurnished and without utilities? And then it goes on to say, do you know what your home is worth? Do you know how much you can rent it for? Now, most people, I think they have their thumb on the pulse on what their house is valued at for sale. But a lot of people, in most cases, have no idea what it would rent out for. And unfortunately, when they do these surveys, a lot of times when people give their opinion on what they think it could rent for, it's a lot lower than what the current market is. The following graph shows imputed mortgage payments based on historical mortgage rates and the Case-Shiller price index. Imputed mortgage payments should serve as a strong proxy for rental prices despite not including homeowner maintenance and taxes. Given OER does not correlate with home prices or imputed rental prices, we have zero ability to forecast 23% of CPI accurately. As such, we have no idea if soaring home prices will affect CPI. And you can see the graph up here. As mentioned, I'm going to leave this article for you guys to take a look at in detail as well. Rental prices contributing 7% to the CPI index should be much easier to forecast. They directly ask renters how much they pay in rent. In theory, this should provide a good measure of rental prices. Unfortunately, theory and reality are not always the same. Zillow puts out a rent index called the Zillow Rent Index. Their index uses actual rental prices and estimates of rental prices on properties not for rent. Now check out this graph. If we scroll down, we can see the actual Zillow, which is in the blue, is obviously a lot higher than the CPI rent. Now, a lot of people look at Zillow as a main source of valuation of the rental market, and unfortunately, we're seeing right here firsthand that it's not really correlating with the CPI. Like OER, the BLS measures of rent prices fails to represent the actual state of rental prices. Rent, like OER, is nearly impossible to forecast. Now, you have other economists like Peter Schiff talking about the real CPI and how it was measured decades ago, and he states that in today's day, the real CPI should hover around 20%. And I think that's accurate. I think a lot of people watching this right now are seeing, the rent prices, the cost for housing, the cost for food, a lot of things that are kind of manipulated, maybe food not so much, but everybody is feeling that increase, especially for rents. I mean, we see it on our channel here with the comment section. A lot of people just talking about how high their rents are, and now with mortgage interest rates rising, how high the cost of buying a house is right now with the high price of homes as well. So I think that the CPI doesn't accurately reflect the real inflationary market that we're currently in right now. Regardless, it is showing a very maybe potentially disturbing outlook of what the future is to come. A lot of economists were expecting maybe even a decrease to like 8.3, maybe even 8.2%. But as we're seeing today, we're at 8.6 as of today. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think the cost of housing is manipulated in this, and I will see you guys on the next video. Another one coming out tonight at around 6 o'clock. Thanks for being here.